All right. Hello, everyone. This is my case study for Module 11. My name is Isabella Nickel. Okay, so Section 1, Establishing the Facts. So we have Mr. Rhodes. He is a new principal at Golden Oak High School. We have Dr. Newman. He is the superintendent of the district. We have our teachers at the school, the counselor, students, parents, and stakeholders in the community, such as juvenile court system and social services. This is at Golden Oak High School. It serves 965 students from grades 9 to 12. It is mainly middle income families, and it is located in the suburban area outside of a metropolitan area. It has been established for 55 years, and the school offers 11 sports and 31 clubs, so a lot of opportunities to get involved. And it is becoming more diverse because Hispanic and Asian families are moving into that community. Okay, so the main concerns are that attendance is declining. The school last year had the lowest attendance rate in the district, and that was communicated to Mr. Rhodes by the superintendent. And also another concern is how the attendance impacts student achievement, because if the students miss more than 5 days, the teacher is allowed to take 10 points away from that student's grade. And also how the attendance issue could possibly include more collaboration from all of the stakeholders, since that is lacking at this time. Factors to consider: most parents have a 1 to 2 hour commute. The school has been using homeroom teachers to excuse absences, and that shouldn't be the case. It should be the administrators, specifically the principal. And absences should only be excused for illness, death of a family member, inclement weather, or principal approval, which is not occurring, as you will see later on. Teachers have a low turnover rate, so that's a positive. That means that teachers stay there for a long time, and most teachers have been there for at least 10 years. And at the school, they have applied their own discretion instead of applying the local school policies. And the school counselor is not participating the way that they should in these conversations with attendance, as well as communicating with families. So the legal case to consider is the 1944 Prince versus Massachusetts case, which basically states that families are required to have their students attend school. And the ethical issues at hand are that Golden Oak High School is not adhering to the school board and state policies regarding attendance, and therefore students are suffering academically. And the attendance excusal is inconsistent because right now it's based on the discretion of the homeroom teacher, where it should be the principal's approval. And there's a lack of communication and collaboration with staff and stakeholders. So my synthesis statement is: Mr. Rhodes, a first-year principal, is being asked to increase the attendance rate at Golden Oak High School, and he is identifying the data he has on the school's first semester attendance so that he can think of solutions on how to improve the school's attendance. Okay, these are the students that Mr. Rhodes identified after the first semester that had 10 or more absences. So we have Karen. She was a high-achieving student prior to this time, but then before school started this school year, she got married that summer. She's been missing random Mondays and Fridays, and the excessive absences are over 10 absences. And the parents requested a conference with the teachers, but in the case study, it doesn't mention whether or not that occurs. There's no record of counselor involvement, which is concerning, and she failed to take a midterm before Christmas. Then we have Tyrone, and he has an average progress academically. His parents gave notes excusing his absence for travel for 2 trips, and the homeroom teacher excused those absences. And then we have Christina, who is out of town for church meetings. And she also got a note, and this note was from her minister, to be excused for these meetings. The homeroom teacher, again, excused the absences, even though the letter was missing specific locations and dates for these church meetings. And the algebra teacher requested a conference with the parents because at this time she missed 2 major exams, which tells me that her absences were not communicated to all of her teachers prior to. And then we have Carl. And Carl attended regular and vocational classes, so he would be transported for the vocational classes in the afternoons. He was missing a lot of random days, so he was contacted by a truancy officer, and when they went to the home, the father was not happy because in Carl's family, they allow him to stay home if he wants to, if he's not feeling well or he just doesn't feel like going. And the parents don't feel like the school should be involved in their business. And then we have John. He's a junior quarterback, and he was injured, and he was allowed to play as quarterback as long as he went to physical therapy. But the therapy was only available during school hours, so they allowed that. So he was missing a couple of afternoons a week for that. And then the athletic director requested for him to be excused on Friday afternoons so that he could rest as well. And the teachers did not report that the absences were excessive, even though he was absent 3 afternoons a week. And we have Mr. Rhodes. He's a first-year principal, and he hasn't established relationships yet with staff, students, families, and stakeholders. And he's trying to find data to figure out solutions after the first semester. We have Dr. Newman, who is a superintendent of the school district, and he wants Mr. Rhodes to solve the attendance issue at Golden Oak High School. The parents want autonomy of their decisions for their child regarding absences, as seen the 5 students that were identified. And it looks like not many parents are being contacted by the school directly, or conferences are not occurring. The counselor is not contacting the parents. The teachers are used to making the decisions on attendance and excusing absences, but they're not adhering to the school board and state policies. And the counselor is negligent because they are not communicating with families and staff and not adhering to school board and state policies as well. The demographics and programs at Golden Oak High School, again, there are 965 students from grades 9 to 12. It's located in a suburban area near a metropolitan area. 11 sports offered. Football is the main sport. There are 31 clubs, so students have a lot of opportunities to be involved in activities, mostly middle income. Some are in poverty and some are in high income. And again, the Hispanic and Asian population is diversifying the school. Some parents are professionals, but most of them work in the local industry or manage small businesses, and there is a low teacher turnover rate. So the stakeholders, parents, the parents have to be communicated more by administrators. It sounds like these conversations are not happening, as well as the counselor, because that is the counselor's job to communicate with families as well. And they need to talk about the school board policies on attendance and be firm with those policies. The decline of their students' academic performance should be discussed. So the students who had more than 10 absences for the first semester, their parents should be contacted and explained about the decline of their students' academic performance. For example, missing midterms or exams. Teachers, Mr. Rhodes needs to communicate with the teachers about the school board policies, and he needs to encourage teachers to make data-driven decisions. So he needs to be transparent with the data that has been analyzed by him, and they need to have a collaborative discussion about that. He also needs to talk with them about how he should be the one making the decisions on whether or not a student should be approved outside of that policy for the school board and the state. and the community needs to understand why that board policy exists and how it affects their students. So some options and possible consequences. Option 1, Mr. Rhodes does not try to change the way that Golden Oak High School is handling attendance. So a possible consequence of that is that he could get in trouble and lose his job for not following the law, and students may suffer academically. Option 2, he communicates with the staff, families, and stakeholders on the noncompliance of the law and implements a collaborative discussion on how to address attendance in a legal manner. And a possible consequence of that is that he gets pushback from the staff, the families, and stakeholders. However, attendance could improve and more accurate data would be collected on school attendance. And so from that point, all stakeholders can work together to improve attendance. So the pros and cons would be for option 1, if he does nothing, the teachers could continue as they have been and he would receive pushback. And the cons, Mr. Rhodes could potentially lose his job, as I said, and there would be inaccurate attendance data. There's a lack of communication among stakeholders. There's poor leadership exhibited, and students' academic performance suffers due to absences. Option 2, Mr. Rhodes collaborates with stakeholders and stands by the board policy by implementing specific guidelines to all stakeholders. So the pros of that would be that the data collected on attendance would be accurate, and they could have those hard conversations on how they plan on changing that data. And he will exhibit strong leadership skills, and all stakeholders know the specific guidelines outlined by administration, and hopefully absenteeism would decline. The cons would be that stakeholders may push back and refuse to follow the guidelines provided by Mr. Rhodes, as well as refusing to follow school board and state policy. Okay, so this says option 1. I meant to put option 2. I'm sorry. So the final decision is option 2. While considering ethical and legal decision making, Mr. Rhodes should choose to implement clear guidelines in regards to attendance at Golden Oak High School. So it may be difficult for him because those teachers have been there for so long, but he really needs to exhibit good leadership skills and stand his ground in a respectful manner that will build relationships and respect among the staff. And he should continue to state that the reason why they're doing this is for the students. And this would demonstrate the capacity to evaluate, develop, and advocate for a data-informed and equitable resource planning that supports school improvement and student development. So if he says, okay, if a student has an absence that needs to be excused that's outside of the state and school board policy, I would like you to let me know, and then we can have a conference with those parents in person, and we can all agree, and then I will approve. That way, everybody is involved in the conversation. And so they can see if that improves the data, and then they could have quarterly meetings during professional development to analyze the attendance data and provide input on how to improve. And so the potential results of the final decision, as I've stated, he's probably going to get a lot of pushback at first, but as long as he stands his ground in a respectful manner and continues to state his values as to why he's doing that and that it's for the best interest in students, I think that everyone else will begin to listen and they will start to implement the same policy and adhere to the law. Okay, so I wanted to answer some of the questions that were listed. It says, how would I promote academic success and personal well-being of each student and adult? So I would do that by using data to drive decisions on how to improve our school and establish positive relationships by taking all stakeholders' opinions into consideration and treating them with respect. And then I would provide clear evidence that pre-K through 12 students are being better prepared for college, careers, and life by using programs such as AVID, community involvement, and providing students and staff with opportunities and creative freedom based on their potential interests for their future. I would also use data to support what programs best prepare students for the future. And I would promote collaborative effort among key stakeholders by inviting them to participate in open meetings and making sure that they have equitable access to the data. And I would want to be transparent with all stakeholders on the successes and needed areas of improvement in the school. And I would support every student and or adult's learning and development by making sure IEPs are met, as well as providing rigorous courses for students who have exemplified their preparedness based on the data. I would want to challenge staff by providing differentiated professional development opportunities. So maybe some opportunities for new teachers and as well as seasoned staff members that would be beneficial for them and their growth. And I would inspire staff to pursue new creative approaches for improving schools and promoting student learning by providing teachers with creative freedom, and also making sure that we look at data as a measurement of what we can celebrate and what we may need to creatively problem solve. I would support teachers by making sure I consistently ask for their input and expertise and follow through on what I say I will do and I will provide. And then I would manage resources and operations of the school by adhering to policies and allocating resources and operations based on district and staff input. And I would reflect on past experiences to examine, refine, and strengthen leadership platform that influences decisions, especially during difficult times. I would be open to conversation and, most importantly, listening. And I will receive feedback from teachers and stakeholders and utilize it when making decisions. I would always honor and respect all stakeholders, as well as considering the data. I would not be afraid to change a method if it is not working. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much for watching.